Hello, Professor Nelson. It's Ryan here giving my HR interview for our management class. I'm excited to share the key takeaways that I had from this interview, and I hope you enjoy. So starting out, I'll give you a quick clip from The Office about Toby. Just a little disclaimer, it's pretty dry humor, so just be ready for it.
Toby is in HR, which technically means he works for corporate, so he's really not a part of our family. Also, he's divorced, so he's really not a part of his family.
Yeah, like I said, very dry, but it does have some truthfulness in it in regards to how some people, employees or peers, or even management, can perceive HR managers. So I'll kind of get into that a little bit later on perception and how my interviewee deals with that. So first, who I interviewed, his name is Hayden Larson. He was a student here. He graduated from the University of Northwestern in 2015. We met on December 3rd on Monday. Everyone had time to catch up and chat about life. He was actually a former teammate of mine my freshman year, so it's good to see how his career is just taken off and how his role in the HR industry is exciting. So a little bit on the background of what business he works for. It's a family business, Slumberland Furniture. It's a very well-known company that was started in Minnesota by his grandparents. Entrepreneur Magazine said that Slumberland Furniture was a franchise 500 for 4 years straight. They had them on their list for the franchise 500 in America from 2010 to 13. And that was kind of when Hayden was in college, kind of deciding what he wanted to do with his career. In 2012, a couple years before Hayden graduated, they had a 6% growth, which is pretty drastic, and in 2013 they had $414 million worth of sales and revenue. His grandparents started it in one location in Minnesota, and currently, since it's a franchise company, people can purchase their name and then obviously move that around the country and do what they want with their business, but have their name, and now they're in 127 locations across 12 states, kind of in the interior of America, the Midwest area. So it's pretty exciting. Hayden's start in HR. So in school, it's a very difficult time trying to figure out what you want to do and what best suits your intrinsic abilities and kind of like what industry you would find most satisfying. And he said, going through school at Northwestern, he kind of felt like he had a salesman type personality, which I could connect to, but also he had a good ability to connect with people. He was a people person, and on the football team, I even saw his ability to be a peacemaker and kind of be that soft-spoken leader, and very wise behind his years during my time playing with him. So choosing HR was not super difficult, he said. He kind of spoke with his family and saw what was in his heart and his abilities that God gave him, along with how his family could best use him at Slumberland, because he was for sure that he was going to work there upon graduation. And HR was a position that he kind of fell into. I shouldn't say fell into, he wanted that, and I think that it suited him really well, and he's doing a great job at that role. Starting in at Slumberland, you could imagine kind of the angst he must have had, because going into a large company making $400 million a year, and your family and your blood related to the founders. Nepotism is a huge thing that can divide people and have a lot of misconceived negative connotations on new employees, especially at an HR level. Toby wasn't related to anyone in Dunder Mifflin, but you can kind of see how they treated him and kind of disregarded his authority because of just certain things. And so Hayden did have some fear about that. But he said the learning curve was really quick because he was kind of a part of the family. He had worked there and been in different stores and locations around Minnesota. So he said the learning curve was really quick, which helped his beginning part of his career super, super well. He was able to cut down the amount of time that it took him to be able to fulfill basic mundane HR roles such as payroll and benefits and things like that aren't easy per se, but very time consuming, and he was able to expedite those processes and made it very easy for the first year that he was there. And then, like I was speaking to earlier, family ties. He believed that his previous work at Slumberland during high school kind of made him feel a part of the family already. So there wasn't too much angst going in, but yeah, I mean, going from college to career is kind of like out of the frying pan into the fire, and I guess this was very prominent for Hayden going into Slumberland at an HR role. So my first key takeaway that Hayden was alluding to was HR looks different in different industries. Your idea of what your career will be like sometimes is very different to what the reality is. And he said HR in Slumberland, which is a franchisee company that has 127 locations, looks a lot different than HR at a corporation, and looks a lot different than HR in a small business. Some of the key roles, like I said earlier, like payroll and kind of onboarding and things like that, kind of have an interwoven tie between all three of those, but different industries formulate HR many different ways. We talked about that for a little bit, and how if he ever wanted to leave Slumberland and kind of pursue kind of his own thing, how there'd be a different learning curve with different industries in HR. So the second key takeaway was confidence and planning. This is something he learned his first couple of years there, that in order to be an effective HR manager, you have to go above and beyond your normal duties and tasks. You have to be able to show a plan to completion and see how it increased productivity is kind of the main objective for HR managers. And he said going into that position at a young age right out of college, he said, a lot of people have confidence and don't plan for it, and then some college graduates don't have confidence and plan the wrong way. And he said you need to have confidence in yourself, but not just yourself. You need to surround yourself with people. For him, he had family there, and not just blood family, but like close friends that he could seek counsel from. And you have to combine the people around you and your plan in order to get confidence from it. And then planning, he spoke a lot about how it's hard to find time to carve out plans when you're busy doing normal tasks in HR, but in order to plan, you need to have like super focus, and you need to believe in the reality that the plan's outcome will be beneficial to the company. You need to know that it'll be more productive for the company in the long run. You need to not just find the right people for the right places, but also performance reviews and kind of increasing the overall productivity of the company is something that planning is essential for. And my last key takeaway, which was another big thing I wanted to get from him, was what do you think the HR industry is going to be like in a few years? What are the changes? What are some of the trends that you've seen? So the first one he said was healthcare. This has kind of been a big topic in the last presidency. They kind of tend to rise and fall as new presidents get elected, but healthcare is always one of the key things that HR managers have to deal with in regards to benefits and kind of health insurance policies. That it's kind of like always a rocking ship that they need to deal with. Excuse me. And then changing performance reviews. He said this wasn't so prevalent in his industry, but a lot of performance reviews are kind of changing over the corporate structure in America. They're putting people in different places than they may have started in the company, depending on the industry, but changing performance reviews is adapting. They're doing it in different ways and communicating things differently as society changes. So he said that's something that he likes to focus on, is how to really tie down performance reviews, but allow enough freedom for wiggle room and allowing to communicate better to different people and different employees in Slumberland. And then he said his focus on productivity, that's one of the big things in management as a whole, and then specifically at HR. You want to put the right people in the right places, and you want them to be productive, satisfied, and okay with their benefits. And there's just a huge encompassing thing that HR has to deal with. And being productive and showing plans to a completion to increase productivity is such a large thing in his work. And then lastly, the digital age of work. He said Slumberland has digitalized a lot of things, but so many companies, he said, outside of that industry are using telecommunication and different ways of working. Not a lot of people go into a brick and mortar workplace anymore. The trend is vastly moving towards online work and working from home and things like that, which has an effect on performance reviews and can allow some difficulties to come into an HR manager's role. Face-to-face interaction is always best, especially reviewing someone's performance or planning someone's career path within your company, that sort of thing. So yeah, digital age of work is something that is going to affect HR management in the future. And then in conclusion, I had a great time talking with Hayden and catching up with him as a friend and a teammate. But it was good that I had a key takeaway of what I wanted to do in a career. I was also very much pushed into like a salesman type personality, and I think I would really enjoy that after graduation this May. But HR is something that I believe that I could do, and I definitely will seek positions in it. I enjoy relating to people, and I think Hayden and I kind of discussed that more for the majority of the interview, and how some personality traits, when people like follow you or people tend to listen to you, it's good to have that respect, and it can prove really well for a position like in HR management. So thank you for your time, thank you for listening, and have a good weekend, Jessa. Bye-bye.